All right. How's it going, Greg?
Doing well.
Yep. So today we're going to talk about the macro market. We're going to talk about what's going on in the news, what's going on with the Federal Reserve, all those types of stuff. And then you've got some other tidbits you want to share with us. So I'm going to let you kind of take the reins here, and I'll jump in when I can, but I'm going to let you run this one.
Well, hey, not a problem. So let me just start out and say that things are moving. Houses are selling. Buyers are getting mortgages still. But the overall, the big news today is that the Federal Reserve is expected to raise the federal discount point 3/4 of a point, which is pretty significant. They haven't done that too many times. There's some that believe they're going to go a full point. They're going to make the announcement, I think, at 2:30 today. But I'm just reading here out of something that I tend to look at, and it says another big rate hike coming today as the Fed battles inflation. The economy hangs in the balance.
So when they talk about raising the interest rate by another percent here, how does that trickle down towards interest rates?
Well, there's not a absolute direct correlation. And so here we are right now. I believe from my checking that I've done today that the 30-year fixed rate mortgage is right around 5.5. It did jump up, I think, briefly up over 6 last month. So even though it's going to go up 3/4 of a point today, the Federal Reserve, all the predictions seem to be from the people in the know is that it is not going to move the interest rates 3/4 of a point. Matter of fact, they're expecting interest rates to stay right at 5.5.
Okay.
So that'll be interesting to see what actually happens. Right now, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac are predicting that rates will be in the third quarter will be in the 5.5 range. Wells Fargo is predicting they'll be in the 5.3 range. National Association of Realtors is predicting the 5.2 range. A number of economists, people in the know, are looking right now at moderating rates, which means staying the same. If I looked at it, it's probably about 60% of the experts believe that rates will moderate. There's a couple, 20% believe that rates are going to go up. I don't see anybody that's saying that rates are going to go down. Another little tidbit here is the average interest rate since 1971, so 50 years ago, is 7.7%. That's the average. Obviously, it's been higher, it's been lower. There's another place that if people want to go to see a good resource for this, I came across the site called themortgagereport.com. And I just got that bookmarked in my computer so I can go there anytime and check it. I get to see a number of different areas. But I want to come back here to Jerome Powell, who's the head of the Federal Reserve. And here's the Fed is battling inflation. They hope that if they get aggressive on this rate today, that they can get inflation under control. And in June, everybody was expecting that inflation was going to go down a little bit, and instead it went up. So inflation in June was 9.1%. The central bank is only equipped to deal with the demand side of things. They can't touch the supply side. So what do? Well, if they want to slow demand, they raise the cost of borrowing. And that's exactly what they're doing. And so it just so happens that we are in a business or a field that we take the brunt of that when rates go up. It's that increase, we were at, I was looking at this too, we were at on June 21, a year ago, right now, 30-year rate, you know what it was? 2.87.
And that was 1 year ago?
1 year ago. December, 21, your
Yep.
birthday.
Yep.
It was 3.10. April, 4.98. May, 5.25. June, 5.5 and higher. So I remember back in January area, I think I was saying some things like, man, I think these rates are going to jump, and everybody was saying, oh no, it's just going to be slow. Well, so for me to see it go from 2.8 to 5.5, I mean, that's double, right? That's a significant hit for a lot of buyers. So that is going to ice out a number of first-time home buyers, probably. It's going to also maybe ice out some move-up buyers. It's going to knock out some people that were planning on building that have canceled their contracts. And here's another thing to think about in the macro side of things as agents are trying to, what conversations can you have? Well, according to a poll, 65% of registered voters believe the US economy is currently in a recession. Well, when people think that, they put their hands back in their pockets and they don't spend. And our economy is driven by consumption. So we need people the government needs people to spend money to keep this thing going. And if the people get worried, what I would call, the trend line, the momentum is heading down, and there's fear. And so the big worry for the Fed is if the inflation thing becomes entrenched, which means everybody just thinks it's a foregone conclusion, it's going to continue, that's really bad. And because then people start making crazy decisions, and the spiral gets worse, and then to fix it, the fix is really harsh. So the idea is that hopefully if they move now, it will not cause as big of a recession.
Right.
Good. So anyway, so that's kind of the macro stuff. How we're beginning to see it, I'm going to put this, what I'm going to call the shifts that I'm seeing. You've got the things that we're seeing, the anecdotes are the showings are slowing, right? Not getting the same number of showings that we were 6 months ago. Less offers to look at. Buyers are no longer waiving as many of the inspections.
Yep.
Buyers are no longer giving, what do you call it? Appraisal gap covering, right?
What about, we know there's a lot of liquidity in people's homes. I guess it's not really liquid, is it? But there's a lot of equity in homes. But what about people? What about with the stock market being hit so intensely here? A lot of people's maybe liquidity is not quite as where it used to be, or maybe they're not willing to come in with cash.
I've talked with people that have lost a significant amount of money here in the last 6 months in the marketplace. And of course, technically, if you don't sell the stock, you haven't lost anything yet.
No, more like their net worth is dropped.
But you know what? People feel it. And when they feel it, if they think that their net worth has dropped, well, then they're not as likely to spend money. If they're feeling healthy, they're more likely to spend. Very simple. So, so that's kind of like what I'm going to call for the shift in what we're seeing right now. That's the first phase. But then it goes into, I think, phase 2. And this is where we're going to start seeing things like that maybe some of the agents have not seen, offers coming in under asking price. Mm-hmm. I think we're going to start seeing FHA and VA buyers are going to be able to come back on the scene where they were pretty much iced out for the last number of years. So you might even see a buyer asking a seller to pay points. You might see a buyer asking for a contingent offer, mm-hmm. Where they ask the seller to take the home off the market while they try to sell their house. So what the Fed is doing is working when you look at these first steps right here. in what we're seeing. And then eventually, for a lot of us that have been around for a lot of years, we would find ourselves in what I'm going to call the final phase, which would be the more normal phase, which would be, it's going to take 30 to 60 days. You're not going to get showings. You're not going to get 5 showings on the first day you list it. The sellers are going to be asking you to do more. They're going to want you to spend money. They think that you could be doing more and that you're lazy, and that's because you're lazy. That's why these people aren't coming and look at it. So the real estate agents will be required to have a new conversation.
Well, there's a really good example of this in my neighborhood. A home was listed down the street. We all knew it was overpriced, right? It was way overpriced. They turned down a couple of great offers. They've turned down 2 offers. Sure enough, they fire the realtor, bring a new realtor in, and guess what? A 20% reduction in the listing price.
Right.
Pending within a week.
So the first agent did not do a bad job. They actually brought the offers, right?
They brought multiple offers that were probably the equivalent to the offers the seller turned down.
And they're not going to get paid. And
they got fired, and they were told they were bad realtors, got fired, brought another realtor in, gave the second realtor in a nice, huge price reduction on the house, and magically the agent produced an offer.
Isn't that amazing? That second agent was so much better than the first.
It's a genius. It's a genius.
Yeah. So anyway, so I wanted to go in a little different direction. There's been a couple things that we've seen over the past few months that, we're always looking for things. It's like, is this a trend or is this a freak accident type of a thing? But we've seen a couple of them where the listing agent or the seller believes they've got sewer, or that sewer is available. And so the buyers and the buyer's agents, they trust, they don't verify. And turns out they close, and all of a sudden there's an assessment for a new sewer they're required to hook up. And I think the case I'm talking about here, Paul, but in this specific case, sewer was in the street. Buyers were unaware, and the sellers knew it was there, and they knew there was a pending assessment, but they also knew that as long as they owned it, nothing could happen. But the minute the buyers closed, that second, it became a lien, and now the buyers had to act and spend thousands of dollars, or they would be fined $500 a month or whatever for every month they didn't put it in. Well, and again, when we look at these things, when somebody says there's no assessments or no liens, it's like, well, there's no active lien, there's no demand lien that's required. Because the buy sells typically say that the seller will take care of any existing liens, right? But it's technically not a lien. So that's one part. So I'm conflating 2 issues here, but in reality, what I'm just saying here is that you have to make sure, if somebody tells you there's a septic system or a well, or excuse me, a public water, public sewer, there's a bill. Why not just ask the seller to provide a copy of the water and sewer bill? And if they're both on there, great. If only one's on there, well, now you know. But you don't have to accept. And ultimately, you're the one responsible to protect the buyer. And remember, the listing card says, this is to the knowledge that the best knowledge that we have right now, not necessarily factually stating anything. So why end up in a problem when all it would have taken was to say, let us see a copy of your water and sewer bill. Mm-hmm. We've also seen this same thing with utilities, where somebody believes that electric or cable, and today, cable, internet, fiber optics, very important stuff to a lot of people who are attempting to work from home. And so I think that we've got to be more diligent in understanding what's in the street or what's up on the power lines,
Yeah, we've been through these before where a lot was sold and they assumed because there's a bunch of lots in here that the lots were what we call fully improved. Like where you had electrical pulled past the house, you have cable pulled past the house. Well, not the case. It was at the end of the street on the main road. And so it hadn't been pulled down to the lot. And that poor buyer, I mean, so, but then what happens is you end up in a legal battle, right? Who disclosed, who didn't disclose, who misled, who's responsible.
So when you think about this, the agent's job is to be a proactive detective, proactive researcher, and not to trust, but to verify. That's the least you can do to protect your clients. And I just think that we have to, and again, I want to make sure that, you know, the people that have run into these things, anybody could have run into these things.
Yep.
You just happen to be obviously that unlucky person that got caught. But you know what? You don't have to be going forward, because now you know you should be that person that does the double check, calls the county, checks on the well and septic, check on the consumer and the power lines. Let's see the bills, prove it. So be proactive, not reactive. Reactive means that you'll probably lose the clients, and you have an opportunity to be the hero.
Well, reactive doesn't really impress a whole lot of people. Reactive doesn't really win clients for life, right? You're not, if your client's constantly asking you questions and you're constantly just answering questions, the clients can end up feeling like, boy, if it weren't for me asking those questions, what would I have gotten out of this realtor?
Exactly. And I'm thinking it might have been back in April and May, I talked on one of our live streams about you, the agent, you can prevent about 98% of the things that can go wrong with just a little extra effort. And you never want to tell your clients when the problem arises to say something along, I didn't know. Oh, I thought they were handling it. Oh, I don't see that as my job. I suppose I should have thought of this next time, maybe, huh? And I didn't, or I didn't think it was necessary. Any one of those things, albeit maybe true, will not make you look professional. So again, I just want to encourage agents to take control. Don't be the victim. You don't have to be the victim. You can save a lot of extra energy going down one of these other roads. So Paul, that's really pretty much what I've got today.
I'll give one shout out that you and I on August 1 are going to be doing the Deal Doctor live stream.
Oh boy.
And we're going to do stats. We're talking stats.
Okay.
So we're going to get to dive into the statistics again. We'll try and come up with a good presentation on stats here between now and then. But so join us on August 1. You'll have Greg and I here, and we'll talk about all things stats. Come bring your questions, throw us some curveballs, and we're looking forward to it.
So let me just end it with be the pro, do your job, solve these things before they happen, be proactive, and enjoy life.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you on Monday.